game world is working on. Because you see the collision of several different markets. You see TVs, you see cable providers, you see content providers like Netflix that are agnostic toward the service that the provider that you use. And then you see video games kind of running right into it, and the set-top box people too, the entertainment folks, Roku and Boxy and all these kind of Apple TV. You see them all kind of running into the exact same spot and hitting each other at the same place, and they all have a different idea of how that's supposed to look. The consoles now are in that war. It's not just a console war anymore, folks. They're fighting against markets that they don't traditionally play in. I think that's why this console generation is going to be very exciting to watch. So, good point from Nightwolf. Sonic Rose brought up an interesting point. This, it certainly allows for a single point of failure, which is a term that gets used a lot in business and so on. But the idea is very simple. If you have a grand unified console, one that even has a controller built into it, for example, what happens if you get some syrup on it and you can't, and button A sticks, right? At that point, your entire console is screwed unless you can find a way to fix it, right? So instead of it being something where you go, up, my button sticks, you either figure out a way to fix that, or you go and you buy a completely new controller for a couple, a used one for $20, or a third-party one on Amazon for $20, or you go and buy a brand new one for $40 or $50. Either way, you're not buying an entirely new console. You're just buying a new controller, some of which might be actually helpful for some of you anyway, because maybe you wanted another controller and you find another way to fix the old one. The point is, you don't have to worry about your entire system being kaput. You just worry about the controller being dead, right? Or the battery dying, or whatever the case might be. If you unify everything together, if one thing fails, the whole freaking thing fails, and that is generally not a very good thing. Okay, physics of video games makes a prediction that this is more of a fad than a trend, or in other words, that this is something that people at the companies are probably looking at and saying, man, this is great. They see dollar signs, they see all these kinds of grand unified visions of how this thing should come together, but at the end of the day, it's probably not going to be the be-all and end-all. It's not going to define the next movement of video gaming. And, I think, in my mind, I tend to agree with physics of video games. It doesn't seem to me to be at this particular point in time, doesn't seem to be a plausible solution for video gamers. I think instead, it is an alternative, or it is something that video games or companies get very excited about because they feel like they can pull it off, and then they realize they can't, and lo and behold. So, I think that's, I agree with physics of video games. I think this is probably more of a fad, but I'll get into that when I talk about my own opinion in a minute. Akira VGA really highlighted the idea that it's more about service than specifications. It's more about the delivery of the platform than it is about the specifications of the hardware specifically. Remember, folks, really the console wars that we've seen so far have been specification wars. If you remember the PC wars of the early and mid 90s, which I was definitely a big part of, everybody wanted to have the new highest triangle and highest polygon count video GPUs. You wanted to have the fastest CPUs. You wanted to have the most memory that was the lowest latency and the highest front side bus and all these other kinds of things, right? Because it used to really be about specs. Well, software has really changed over the last, I would say, decade, to the point where it's really not about specification. It's really much more about flawless execution in software and then delivery of that service. And so I think that works here as well. So what we end up doing is we end up flirting with a completely different market, guys. And that is the one that says that our stuff, our things, will be floating out there in the great ether. And then we will go out and get them and bring them to wherever we want them, whether it be on our television screen, whether it be on our mobile game platform, whether it be whatever. And at that point, you're really only kind of looking at a network-enabled screen, whether it be your phone, your television, your projector, whatever thing you can imagine, your laptop, right? Your iPad, whatever. The point is, folks, at that point, it is really very irrelevant in some ways what the hardware is specifically. And it's much more reliant on the cloud. And several of you jumped into that arena because I think that the video game companies are seeing that specs are less important than the platform of delivery. And there's no doubt in my mind that Xbox has a step up on the competition in that regard, so I think they feel very confident. Whether or not they have the highest spec system in the next generation, and the reports are that they will not, I think in many ways it will still be very, very capable, and at the very least will be very capable of delivering the platform of Xbox Live in the most seamless way, which I think you see the 360 do very well right now, which is probably one of the reasons why I won't be buying one of the new consoles for a long time to come. In any case, we've seen some of the specifications for these guys, and I don't want to shy away from it. Let's be honest. The rumors on the street are that these consoles are going to be very, very beefy. They're going to have some very expensive, very high-end specifications to the tune of gigs of RAM versus, look at the 360 right now, has half of a gig of RAM, right? So you look at 8, 12 gigs of RAM potentially, right? You look at, the other thing that's interesting is that they're all looking to unify now on more or less an x86 platform on an AMD solution. So in other words, they're now, it looks like, this is all rumor and speculation, but they're all going to have AMD platforms. So probably 8-core AMD CPUs, and then having one or even multiple GPUs that are also AMD that work as a singular ecosystem to deliver the platform. Both consoles seem to be unifying in that architecture. That's interesting too, because it's like when Mac got off of the PowerPC world and came into x86, it opened up a whole new world of development capabilities and possibilities to where you could actually run Windows on a Mac in many ways better than you could run it on a Windows PC in many cases, and vice versa. So there's all kinds of cool things that really could be coming from the specs. So I don't want to back away from the specs. They're huge. At least they're rumored to be huge. And as much as there might be tiered versions of the consoles, that could change. But in any case, I just want to say, just because we want to say the specs aren't that important, they're still going to be massive. And another point to be made, and several of you talked about this, is that they're very PC-like. And if they're very PC-like, then the question becomes, why not just hook your PC to a television? And at the end of the day, I'm not sure I can figure out why, guys. Maze, lastly, is talking about, it's really not looking for the all-in-one. You want to know why? Because an all-in-one tends to be a jack of all trades and a master at none. That means that they're really never 100% that great at any one given thing. They're not great at gaming. They're not great at content delivery. They're not great at your social platform of choice. They're not great at, whatever. But they do all of that, and they do all of it pretty well, right? Well, I think many of us probably, I think there's something to be said about delivering the best of the gaming platforms. If you ask Epic Games, the idea of having, you really need some amazingly beefy hardware to be able to run their next generation of Unreal Engine. So at the end of the day, they want to see horsepower because they want a dedicated gaming system to be able to deliver the best that gaming has to offer. And by the way, I don't know if any of you have seen some of the demos of the new Unreal Engine, but it is absolutely phenomenal. And I think we can all agree, if engines are going to be that powerful, and if there are going to be games that look that splendid and wondrous, then I think we probably want to get behind that, and we probably would at some point want to trade in that old jack of all trades and master of none. So great point from Maze. I think that at the end of the day, the idea of the all-in-one is fantastic, but probably a little bit undeliverable given our history and understanding of the video game market in the past. So what do I think about all this? First of all, I think it was a great conversation from all of you. What do I think about all this? I think that, as we've said, I think it's a great concept. I think we're probably eventually going to get there. And I think all of the console manufacturers are making a nod toward this. Regardless, they understand that the platform and the cloud is going to be important. They understand that the social, that media, that games are all kind of becoming one similar ecosystem, and that it really isn't about necessarily the delivery of the web, it's more about the delivery of services. And I think that is a fundamental shift in the way that console manufacturers are going to approach the internet and connectivity and the way that we're going to share information, which is exciting. That being said, I don't understand in many ways why, as we evolve these gaming consoles, you know, they are basically what the original Xbox was, folks, and that is that they are a basically tightly controlled implementation of a PC that basically makes it very easy to hook to your television, right? Let's face it, if you're not a geek and you've never opened a PC, it's going to be very difficult to buy a PC that you want to hook up to your TV and use as a dedicated television connected platform. Most people, folks, let's face it, are not going to be doing that. So what they do instead is they buy a PC that's basically been prepackaged by someone and very easy to hook into your TV and your internet connection or your Wi-Fi or whatever, and just rock and roll, right? So as long as I think we have so many people out there that want to have a gaming platform, but are not necessarily geeks, or not necessarily, you know, being able, folks that are able to really jump in and define their own PC hardware, then you're going to see these kind of PCs that get hooked to the TV pretty easily. Which is why the other thing that came out of CES, which is the finalized version of the Steam box, or at least a hardware specification version of the Steam box, is very exciting. You know, you have basically a tiny PC that's capable of doing all kinds of different gaming right from your home network and from your TV, and that's really all it is. And I think with the Ouya and with the Project Shield and with all these other things that came out of CES, what we're seeing is that the specifications aren't nearly as important as they used to be. As we've said many times here already today, I think that is the general sentiment, and I think that's the lesson that is to be learned. So there you have it. I think you know, I think that we will see a lot more of these things, these unified ideas about consoles come out, but I'm not sure we're going to see any of these in execution. Great conversation, guys. Now let's move on. So we've done a lot of very heady topics lately, a lot of things that are very much about kind of current day stuff, and I realized we haven't talked about a lot of retro things in a while, which, you know, at the end of the day happens to be a lot of the bread and butter we offer here at theclanofthegraywolf.com. So I thought to myself that maybe we should go back and start talking about some retro gaming for this week. I know all of you are going to get behind that in a big, major way. So, as many of you know that have watched for a while, I inaugurated this a few months back, where I asked you guys, why is something X so awesome? Could be a lot of different things. I happened to ask that time about Castlevania. This week, I want to continue that particular vein of thought. I like the idea of being able to ask about why the things that we love in video gaming are so great and why they are celebrated as such, and therefore I'm going to ask this question this week for the Weekly Ringer. The question is this: why is Chrono Trigger so awesome? I don't even need to get into an explanation as to what I'm looking for this week. I have a funny feeling you all are going to be able to run with this one. Hey, listen, you haven't played it in a while? Pop that sucker in. Play a couple minutes of it. Tell me why it's awesome. Don't just give me the, you know, give me your memories. I'm not saying that's wrong. Give me all your memories. I want to know it. But I want to know, you know, if you pop that sucker in now and you play it, why is this thing to be revered? If you're explaining this to somebody that's never even seen it before, why is this so great? Why does this seem like everyone in the video game world knows this game is phenomenal? Why is that? I want to know. All right. So that's the question for next week's Weekly Ringer. I think, you know, it'll be a great topic of conversation. I have a funny feeling so many of you are going to have something to say about why Chrono Trigger is so awesome, and therefore I look forward to the conversation. So, thank you all for being a part of the community here on clanofthegraywolf.com, and thank you for commenting, those of you that have. Thank you for those of you that just watch. It's great to have you guys on board, and obviously I'm very glad to continue to do the Weekly Ringer. So this has been the Weekly Ringer from clanofthegraywolf.com. I am the Commodore, and there is no reset button.